Wood, let's stand and say the pledge. We'll get started. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America. To the republic which stands one nation, under God, strong. All right, we'll get started on time here. Let's see. I'll be looking for approval of our agenda as presented.
Should we approve the agenda as presented?
Thank you, Jeff. I need a second.
I'll second it.
Thank you, Sandra. Any discussion on the agenda? Hearing none. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Hearing none. All right, we got call for public comment. I've got a couple signed up here. I got Mike Cole, if you come up. I'll remind everybody, we're gonna give you about 3 minutes, give or take a little bit, and look forward to hearing what you got to say.
Thank you, Mayor. Mike Cole, on the planning board. I won't take 3 minutes. Just wanted to respond to something that I thought about all night long and all morning that you said last night, in a good way. You know, and I know that people, you know, share their thoughts with you all the time. So, but you said, and I have it, and I have it perfect here, but you stood up and said, didn't know it would be all of this, right? The room was surrounded by maps. It was a lot of data, a lot of information, and it is a lot. It is a lot. And I started thinking about that last night, and I started thinking about that this morning. Set aside my devotion. I made some notes, and I just wanted to share it with you, in the council as a whole. And so, first thing I thought about is that's the current zoning map. I know you guys have seen it. I know you can't see it very well, but it's pretty. It's clean. You know, you got that big green swath area there, you know, rural, that sort of thing. But when I look at that map, someone might say, well, why are we going to mess with any of that, right? Well, because while it looks good on the map, it's Mills River mixed use. There's pretty unlimited use there, which can cut both ways, but it also cuts in a negative way, right? You can do whatever you want to there. So then I know what this map looks like, right? That is busy, very busy. And if you just look at that and haven't immersed yourself like we have in all of this stuff been put in front of us, it's like, oh my gosh, they're going to control every inch of my property and everything that I do and so forth. But what this map, if you look at it, tells us is all of the green, light green and yellow, those are all residential zoning recommendation districts. More than is on this map. They're just different sizes and so forth, Jeff. You know, we had that debate on, you know, we've owned land forever and we have less land or more land and how we divide it, so forth. So that's, while this is very busy and looks overwhelming and they're going to control everything, this map, on the other hand, allows us to maintain as much of the rural character as possible. It doesn't appear that way, but it does. So it looks good, but it won't work. This looks very busy, but will work. And so, but you have to dig into it. So I also summarized my thoughts and I shared it with folks in our meeting today, and they just asked me to stand up and share that. So forgive me, I wrote some down, but this UDO, it really accomplishes a number of things, but 4 very important things. And as we go through this process over the next few weeks and months and so forth, you'll see that. If you have a question about what I'm getting ready to say, just ask me or ask anybody on the board. Number 1, it puts the town in control of protecting its rural character. We know with down zoning, this, because of the work that you guys have done with the legislature and so forth, this puts the town in control of protecting its rural character. Number 2, it offers the flexibility needed to offer a wide variety of housing options while still protecting the rural character. You know, we've debated that. And it's very important. People have different size lands, houses, those sorts of things. Number 3, it does not change anybody's current use of their land. Grandfathered in. Chad will talk more about that tonight. He talked about it last night, but it's grandfathered in. It does not change anybody's use of their land while protecting the rural character of Mills River. And number 4, it doesn't keep any landowner from selling their land for a profit, still while maintaining the rural character of Mills River. So those are the things I know that are very important to a wide variety of interest in town. But we can protect the rural character of this town with what backs up this very busy map, and it's detailed, but it's flexible and it allows us to meet all of the competing interests. And I just want to make that clear, and that you'll see that as we walk through this process. And we'll bring a good UDO put in front of you guys. And thank
Okay.
you.
Thank you. All right, next I got Dee Dee Dillingham.
Dee Dee Dillingham, 19 Tiger Lily Lane, tiny house community. So I have a few things. The UDO meeting was fabulous. I was so happy to see so many people there, and these two, I think, and everybody else affiliated with them, Michael, everybody else has done a great job. I've been to many of these types of meetings over the past 30 years or so, and all across the country. And that I think that was the best one that I've ever been to. So the adjectives that I came up with are the descriptors for you is collaborative, friendly, knowledgeable, and flexible. That's how I thought that your presentation was. So I also wanted to say, you know, how lighting came up, outdoor lighting, light pollution, postcards, all that kind of stuff there. I was thinking, they're going to think it was me. They're going to think it was me on on those questions, but it wasn't. I've already, said my say on those type of things. My question wasn't answered. I don't care whatsoever, but I just wanted to throw that out there that none of those were from me. You did mention a couple of things when lighting was brought up, when conservation spaces were brought up, that just make sure that we push them along, push them into the, the UDO, make sure that they come out somewhere along the line. Although we do have town exterior lighting ordinances, though, you had mentioned, just make sure you just keep talking about it. So that's what I'm done. Also, so land preservation is my other big thing. Farmland preservation, land preservation, any land that owners have. So yesterday I drove from Mills River to the Henderson County Soil and Water Building because they had a Henderson County Agricultural Advisory Board meeting. So I get there, my car's making all kinds of noises, zing, all these. I thought my radio had an emergency alert. No, it was my car, but I pulled in anyhow. They canceled the meeting was canceled. But in the meantime, I said, is there anything that I can do here? Because this is why I'm here. And I asked them if they could reproduce the flyer that I was telling you about from Henderson County's Farmland Preservation Program. It's a front and back flyer that came with our taxes in August. It's just something I'm going to hand to you guys, even though we have a Mills River Land Preservation Program. This shows us how many number of farms in the county, land and farms, and nice data and all these kind of things. And there are 3 programs to preserve land that I thought might be helpful. Also, I was very excited to meet their new coordinator. She's a really young, quiet gal, Angela Price. She said anytime anybody would want her to speak, aside from what we were talking about conserving Carolina, she would come and speak. And she also came up with this fabulous Henderson farmland preservation guide. So she has all these, all the text in the maps, and in the back she has conservation easements. And she has how to fill out that paperwork. And then I just was going to talk about conserving Carolina, like we did at the land preservation meeting. You guys probably know about conserving Carolina, but I have handouts for you and conserving Carolina's newsletters, the most current one and the one from spring and summer. Can I hand those out?
If you want to, just bring them over to
Okay.
staff so they can get them dispersed out
Okay.
evenly to everyone.
And in these, you'll see great stories, what they've done preserving, restoring floodplains, and also preserving land, how people have donated land or how people have done conservation easements and those kind of things. And I know some people want to learn about those. And so that I think it's helpful to read the newsletters.
Sure. Thank you. Anyone else for public comment? Hearing none? Okay, we'll keep it a moving. Council comments. Sandra, you want to start us off? Got anything? Jeff, you?
Sure. Last night, someone asked the question, where does council stand on the UDO? And I just thought I'd throw it out there. I can only speak for me, not for council. But I deal with UDOs all across the state as a transportation engineer when I'm working in a town or doing work, even, for a town or in a town, et cetera. I always check the UDO because it's a one-stop shop for any regulations that I'll have to be mindful of as I'm doing my work. So typically the UDO is the place to go, and I don't rhyme on purpose, but, so from that standpoint, with the zoning maps aside, we need a UDO because it helps staff. It also helps people who want to come here and do business or live here to know what's expected of them. So it's a good thing from that. As far as the zoning goes, I'm diving into the different uses and getting a better understanding of it. If someone has a question about it, please ask. We can only address questions that we know. And some people won't be happy. Some people, will be very happy. We heard some very positives. I've heard, very positive. People are very in favor of it. And then, some people are concerned, as should rightfully be. This is a big step. So please make your voice heard and write it down, turn it in so we'll all have it. We can all be aware of what the concerns are. So thanks for everyone that showed up last night. Thanks for everyone that showed up tonight.
I was gonna say that I appreciate everybody coming out last night to the meeting. There was a lot of good input, a lot of questions answered. It was a real learning experience for everybody, and I appreciate all the support of coming out. And keep sharing the word.
Right? Okay. I will announce that, my sidekick here to my left is not with us tonight. He had a death in the family, so he's, dealing with that and the family. I'd like to mention something. I'm gonna bring it up at the business meeting. I asked that the, nuisance ordinance get kicked back to the planning board. I had some discretion in it that I wasn't agreeing upon and give them a few things to work out. And once again, I'm gonna say it, and I'm a mayor, I ain't gonna be here forever, but you know me, I tell it like it is. This thing, I asked for it to get kicked back and give some examples of what I thought need to be worked on. Well, this dadgum thing goes back and they turn it into a full-fledged challenge to fix it all at one fell swoop. And I know that'd be great. But in the meantime, we still got people out here really not knowing what to do in their businesses. Can I put these tires out here? Can I put this tractor bucket over here? Can I stack all this hay up here, even though I'm not a farmer? Can I do this? Can I do that? And I'm getting these phone calls. I'm sure the planning board ain't, but they're calling me asking for stuff to be done about it. How quick do I got to pay this fine if I get it? Am I going to get a fine? Some people saying they ain't getting no fine. Well, then they get to work on it. And then I get a letter, an email, I'm going to call it, that says that they want to table it till after this UDO is done. Hey, I get it. I get it. We can't do it all at one time. I get it. And I appreciate everybody's challenges. But when you think y'all's challenges are bad, take these 150 phone calls a day on this UDO. They ain't none of these 5-minute phone calls. I'm stove up my arm. I really don't feel like talking to soul, but you know what? Shannon Gantz will not lay the phone down. You can ask Sandra Good. She talks to me sometimes for an hour and a half. And I appreciate every bit of it. And I'm not throwing it saying it because it did, but I've had some people on this UDO talk to me for 4 hours. 4 hours. And this nuisance stuff for hours. And I get it. I get it. But, when it comes to the mayor asking staff and asking these advisory boards for help, and then it gets kicked back, I'll tell you, like I sent the email back. I feel like since I've announced that I'm not going to do this anymore, the can got kicked down the road hoping to wait me out. So that's why I'm speaking up tonight. I don't care if they take it back up or not, but I told Matt in there a few minutes ago in his office in private. But now guess what? Shannon's going to tell you all. If this comes down to when I'm out of here and I'm still not locking it, you're going to see the biggest asshole you ever seen at that podium. Because I have lived here my whole life. I have seen the changes. Some of them I like, some of them I don't even care it happened. You know, but we all got to live here and we all want to live here. And this UDO, I'm telling you right now, if you think 5 of us can make a decision this big between now and July, somebody's going to get mad. People's going to be pissed off because it's not going to go everybody's way. I promise you. With 150 phone calls a day, I can't answer any of them right now. I don't know enough information. You know, I never foreseen all this challenge of this total rezoning of the whole town coming. I did not see it coming. Not in this UDO process. I am not on the steering committee, you know, and I didn't ask to be. I probably could have been, but I didn't ask to be. But, you know, we're getting, in general, this council is getting this information about as quick as y'all are. I want to repeat it in case anybody wasn't there last night. I got chapters 1, 3 and 4 like on Friday, and I got, or 4 and 7 Monday morning at 10 o'clock. You try to take old Shannon Johnson, try to get him that went to Mills River. Miss Britton taught me how to teach the best she could, read as best she could, but you know, it takes me a while to read 200 pages and understand it. You know, I like to be able to ask questions and stuff like we did last night, but we've got a challenge. If you think we don't have a challenge and this is going to be smooth sailing, no Shannon Johnson's here to tell you as mayor of Mills River, this is going to be a challenge. And I hope and pray that the 5 that's up here think about everybody. They don't single out any one class, any of their buddies, me included. We've got to look after the majority of the people speaking. And it's going to surprise you how that's going to look on paper, because I'm getting those 150 phone calls a day. But I'm just putting this out there. Everybody needs to know. We're going to go through some of it tonight. I hope it gets more understanding. I hope I can ask some more questions and move on. But just let it be known that we've got a challenge ahead of us, and you need to be talking to your neighbors. You need to be advising everybody. I hate it. We can't just go to everybody's door and knock and say, hey, you need to know about this. It takes me all day, 8 hours or more to get through 150 phone calls. You try to go to 3,500 residents and meet up with them, and you're never going to get away. There's not enough of us to go around. So it's up to you guys to spread this word. It really is. I'm going to hush for a minute. We'll be back into it in a minute.
Yeah, can I add a couple things real quick? I appreciate you bringing up the nuisance ordinance. And that's a fine line to walk between making the town safe and pretty and property values versus being a homeowners association. And we as a town council, I think I can speak, we don't want to be a homeowners association. And I know the planning board knows that and they have that in mind. So we're not trying to regulate every single thing. I believe that government is best which governs least. And, you know, we take care of the safety things. We take care of, you know, the things that we can do as a town. But for the most part, live your life. You know, call me if you need me, but if you don't call me, I'm not mad because I know you're living your life. But yeah, the concern, I can understand the concern the planning board has that it gets confused with the UDO. The UDO is a big thing if we don't get it done. And in some cases, we feel like we're trying to put toothpaste back in the tube. And I think I'm frugal. I have put toothpaste back in the tube. Laura did not know. But
It does now.
yeah, it was only a few seconds on the floor. But that's hard. It's really something. We are now addressing something that has never been addressed. And I'm not sure of anyone who says things work well the way they are now, because we've got unbridled growth. And when I talk to people, I'm from Mills River. Oh, I love Mills River. It's beautiful. Wow, y'all are really growing. And yeah, and growth is inevitable, but it's all about smart growth. And, you know, one of the things that I told people when I was running for this seat is that I want to keep Mills River. And that's hard to do. You know, what's rural? Rural is my mom sent me to the neighbor's house to get a cup of sugar. By the time I got home, I'd spilled half of it because it was quite a walk. We'll never have that again. but we can keep our character and keep our neighbors and, you know, keep our community. So we are doing our best. So anyway, thank you for that. Oops, thank you for that time.
Good.
No, I guess. So I think just a couple things. I do want to thank staff for it because I think there's been a lot of comments that have been made in the past about enforcement and about what's going on. And I think they've been put in the spotlight. All staff is doing is carrying out policy that council has set before us. That's their job. So if we have a problem with the policy we created, we don't have to send it to the planning board. We can change the policy ourselves. So if there's something that we need to address, we can address it now. We don't have to send it back to the planning board. So I don't want to point fingers at the planning board because we can handle it ourselves. We don't need them. If they want to do a whole rewrite, then we can address what we need to address right now.
Okay.
So, and as far as, you know, I have a little bit of a different side. I know there's, you know, with businesses versus residential and, you know, operate a business, as you know, in some cases, you know, running a business in a residential area like Mills River, you're going to have some pushback on that just because you're running a business in a residential area. And it's a tough line. But, you know, in some cases, it's a lot easier to ask a business to, in some cases, it's a lot easier for a business to remedy a situation because they're making revenue. And I say that as a business versus going to a 76-year-old woman who her husband just died and saying, hey, we really need you to fix this. And she has no recourse of action as a resident. So I have a lot less sympathy on businesses operating in a residential area as a business owner myself than I do on residents. I'll leave it at that.
That it. Moving on. Okay, manager updates.
Thank you, Mayor and Council. So just a few items. I just wanted to let those hopefully being able to hear me online as well, that we were made aware of some recording issues and some audio issues over the last couple of meetings. We are working as fast as we can to try to solve those issues. I'll just complete transparency. We thought that we had found a solution. That solution had not worked. It worked for a while and then it didn't work anymore. So we're back. We're working as quickly as possible to make those absolute corrections to where we won't have any issues moving forward. Right now, there's a temporary solution, which are these gooseneck microphones with our lav mics. My hope is that while we work through this, that the audio is going to be a lot more. However, again, we're going to continue monitoring. I just want people to know that we're aware of it and we're doing our best to remedy it. Another item that came up, well, I want to say first, thanks to everyone who came out to the Mills River Community Conversations at Fire Station 3 and sharing their input. One of the items that was brought up and we've heard since then is around a postcard and being able to mail it out to everyone. Staff has been working literally the next morning. We started working on what that concept could be, making sure that if it's a product that could live throughout the lifetime of the Unified Development Ordinance, because again, postcards aren't cheap, but trying to make sure that that's going to work for it. And we're in the final stages of processing that and getting that out. My hope is within the next couple of days, it's going to be completed. And so then it'll be, you know, I unfortunately, I can control some things, but I cannot control printers and I cannot control the U.S. Postal Service. But our hope is that at least from us, we'll be getting that out as quickly as possible and into people's hands. So you can post up on your refrigerator or wherever you would like and be able to get involved via QR code, as well as with other information about our website, et cetera, on there. And I'll make sure council gets a copy of that draft before it goes out as well. And so two other things just to mention, everyone's favorite time of the year, tax season, right? I say that with a little jest. The January 5th, just a friendly reminder, January 5th is the deadline for Mills River taxes to be due. You can check your taxes on millsriver.gov. So again, we want to make sure that it's as easy as possible to get you the information that you need. If you have any issues, please reach out to staff. We are happy to walk you through any and every question that you all have. Also, I was asked to remind everyone that both individual and business personal property must be listed with Henderson County in the month of January as well. So again, sometimes with regular, well, with going through taxes and paying taxes, sometimes those other elements can be missed. And we just want to make sure people are, remember that. And you can go to hendersoncountync.gov and you can, and they'll walk you through that process. But again, even if you have a question about Henderson County and that work, you can call us and we're going to help you through that process as well. All right. Last, certainly not least, very excited to remind everyone that the Santa Tour is on December 13th. That'll be this Saturday. So we're very excited again. Santa, I've heard through the grapevine, is very excited as well. And everyone can go on to millsriver.gov and be able to, there will be a tracker available to be able to track Santa as he goes around Mills River. So I hear it's going to be cold, perfect for Santa and Mrs. Claus. For some of his elves, we're going to be making sure we're bundled up. But that being said, we're very excited about it. So make sure it's on your calendars. And that concludes my remarks.
Okay, approval of our consent agenda, please.
So I make a motion to approve the consent agenda.
Thank you, Brian. Second.
I'll second it.
Thank you, Jeff. Any discussion about the consent agenda? Hearing none. All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Hearing none. Okay, moving on. Hopefully our attorney's still with us. We got an update in our regular agenda from our town attorney.
Hi, Sharon. Okay.
Is everybody able to hear me?
Yes, ma'am.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I hope you're feeling well.
Oh, I'm getting by.
To take just a minute of your time, and I appreciate being ahead of the UPO presentation on the agenda. I have been contemplating retirement for a little while now, not very long actually, because I didn't think I'd ever get there. But I'm making plans, and of course, with what I do for you all and for a lot of other clients, I need to look out pretty far into the future. So I wanted to give you all notice that I would be planning to resign as the town attorney no later than the end of March next year. I don't want to get in the way if you have somebody in and ready to go, and it's an awkward time with the UDO, and I'm happy to do whatever to help to stay and help, get that done. But I wanted to get you guys on notice so that you would have plenty of time to make plans, to get a real lawyer to represent you going forward.
Well, I'll have to say I'm proud of you for thinking about retiring. You're made a whole lot like me. I don't know if we'll ever quit working or not, but we got to say stop at some points. And I can't tell you enough how important you've been in my life as a council member, because you always give me the backbone that I could call you and get clear language of whatever it was that my goofy self couldn't figure out, and move forward with it and feel confident in that. So I hope that goes a long ways with you, because I think the world of you.
It goes further than I can describe, and I appreciate you saying those kind of things, Shannon.
Well, you take somebody like me, I've just got a high school education. But I knew if I picked up a phone and I got a hold of you, if Sue Powell couldn't straighten me out before and I called you, I would get a straight shot at it. So, and feel comfortable going forward. So thank you for always being there for me. And I hope and pray we can find somebody as close to you as possible to replace you.
I think you'll have any trouble finding someone even better. Much better.
Thanks for letting us know. Any other council got anything? It's hard when we can't see you, but
No, I just, this is Councilman Kimball, and I just want to thank you for everything that you've done for the town over the years. And congratulations on your retirement.
You're quite welcome. It's been a complete pleasure representing the town, even before it was the town.
Yeah, and this is Jeff, and thank you so much for what you've done. We're going to miss you. I'll miss being able to stand up a little straighter when I say, yeah, our attorney's Sharon. And then people are, oh, wow, you're in good hands. So we'll miss you and wish you the best.
Say that, Jeff, but it's not gonna change.
And this is Sandra. I would like to say, Sharon, thank you for all you've done for the town. I think you've been with them since they started, hadn't you?
Some cooperative corporation, yes, Sandra.
Right. Well,
That was a lot of fun.
I greatly appreciate all you've done for the town and the support of the town that you've given and the help you've given me when I've reached out to you also.
You're very welcome.
All right, well, we'll let you have the rest of your night to yourself, and we appreciate you informing us, and we'll direct staff to move forward with, helping us find a replacement.
Thank you very much, and I'm not gonna go anywhere, so.
Oh, yeah, exactly, because, yeah, you may not be our town attorney anymore, but me and you're still always gonna be friends, just so you know.
Exactly right,
All right, thank you. Have a good night.
too.
All right, let's keep it a rolling here. Our UDO presentation.
Good evening, Mr. Mayor, council members. I'm Chad Meadows with CodeWright. Appreciate the chance to be here. This is not a detailed presentation with a lot of information for you. It's more about where we are and an opportunity for you guys to ask questions of us. And I really, again, appreciate the chance to have some of y'all's time. I will talk a little bit about the modules, and you know, if you'd like to ask some questions as we move through that, that would be great. Otherwise, we can kind of hold that till the end. Go ahead. I don't. Can somebody advance for me? Ah.
You may have to click it a couple of times, but it should be.
This clicker and I have become good friends.
Maybe the only
First-
one, Chad, that gets along with that thing. You may can take that with you when this deal's up. We have to buy another one. We'll put that in the budget next year.
There you go. This slide is the structure for the new Unified Development Ordinance. This document consolidates a handful of chapters from your town code, your zoning chapter, your subdivision chapter, several others into a single document. And the benefit of that is that you get to use a single set of definitions, a single set of procedures. All of your terminology gets to be uniform. The document has its own voice, its common voice. There's not the difference in tense, the difference in terminology that you see today, right? So that's a huge step forward for you guys. Over the last, couple of decades, your regulations have been modified as needed, and it serves you well. But over time, every document that gets tweaked here and pinched there and pulled there begins to show its fraying. And that's sort of the issue that exists now. It's hard to understand some parts of your current regulations. There's a little bit of inconsistency in what's said or the terms that it uses. And that's a challenge. It's a challenge for anybody to understand. This stuff is complicated to begin with. Right. And so, I totally understand everybody's concern about, wow, this is a lot and we didn't expect this. Yeah, that's an absolutely natural reaction. And our job is to explain it and clarify where we can and add what we need to and take out what we don't. You know what I mean? So it's in that spirit that I'm talking with you guys tonight about what's in here and where we go from here. So the things in red are the chapters that are in module 1. You guys have essentially half of the document at this point. You've got the administration, the introduction chapter. We are talking about the zoning districts, the land uses, how we handle nonconformities and the violations. Okay, so I'm going to talk a little bit more about each of those. Stop me at any time if you have a question. I'm not going to spend tons of time on this. I'm more interested in hearing from you than you guys hearing from me. The administration chapter is your sort of introduction. It's your legal boilerplate. It's the authority, the jurisdiction, when was the document adopted, what's the name, that sort of stuff. There's 4 things that are important to know about what this chapter does. It addresses conflicts, okay? Conflicts between language in the document, conflict between language in this document and other town documents, conflicts between this document and state law, conflicts between this document and private agreements, okay? There's a section in here that deals with all of those conflicts in an attempt to make things more predictable, easier to follow. We've incorporated a lot of flexibility mechanisms into this document, and section 1.7 incentives and alternatives talks about that. And what I mean by flexibility is procedural flexibility, okay? Flexibility in terms of standards, flexibility in terms of options, for folks to propose development that's going to work for their sites. Not all sites are the same, and all of the flat land, or at least a lot of the flat land, is developed. It's difficult to develop on steep slopes, and sometimes we need to be able to respond to that so that people can use their property in the way that they wish to. And it's important to incorporate flexibility and to be able to do that. Sometimes the rules come together in ways that we didn't anticipate or that we didn't expect, and that aren't fair. And how do we recognize that those things happen and build into the document ways for us to address that without being overly bureaucratic or charging tons of money or taking tons of time? So we include things like administrative adjustments and alternative plan procedures and a robust conditional zoning process and development agreements and on and on and on. Things that allow your staff, this body, to deal with the complexities that exist in a growing community where we're facing the topographic challenges that we have, et cetera. So that's there. Another section that's in this chapter that's very, very important is the purpose and intent. And there's about, I don't know, 18 statements in there. Those are for y'all to look at, consider, and get back to us. Yep, you got it. This is right. Or no, this isn't us. This isn't right. Those purpose and intent statements will inform how we look at rezonings, how we decide applications before us, how we balance between competing interests. That those purpose and intent statements are really, really important. And that's why I'm calling your attention to it. And then finally, how do we handle development in process, right? We can't just stop the clock, right? Development marches on. You guys have applications in process today, right? And that's going to continue. So how do we treat those? How do we handle those fairly and in predictable ways so that those people who've already put money down on projects and who are expecting to move forward have assurance and clarity about how that can happen for them? So that's basically that chapter. How we handle conflict, our purpose and intent, how we handle stuff that's already underway. And here are some of the flexibility that and the necessary kind of room for maneuvering that we need. Okay. Questions about chapter 1?
Not yet.
Not yet. Understood.
I
Sure.
had a question in here that, I don't know when you want me to ask you.
Whenever it's comfortable for you.
Okay, it's on page 10, and I think we discussed part of it last night. You brought it up. It is 3.3.3, B. In cases where a private agreement, covenant, or deed restriction conflicts with state or federal law, the private agreement, covenant, or deed restriction should be void.
Mhm.
What kind of deed restriction would be on a deed that would be voided? I mean, like if a person had a deed restriction on their land concerning animals or building type, would that be something that would then become void and it wouldn't matter if it was on there anyway?
No, that's in there. There are older developments in the world that have covenants and things embedded in them that control who can buy a property, right? Because of their race or their ethnicity or their gender or their age. So that kind of language you can often find in covenants and deed restrictions. And there's federal law on the books that says these covenants that have that kind of language, right? That discriminate against people for whatever reason, their religion, that those kinds of covenants shouldn't be lawful. And that's what's meant by that piece of the conflict section.
Okay. Well, we didn't get like definitions and stuff.
Yes, ma'am.
I was wanting to get that clarified, while we're still massaging this.
Absolutely. Yes, ma'am. We have, our schedule anticipates delivery of definitions to you with module 2, which by the way is set for staff delivery on December 26th. I think our intention is to try to get that to you sooner, at least partially. And I know there's a feeling that this document is too much and too broad. I want to prepare you. The definitions chapter probably will be 100 pages long. And we're not trying to overwhelm you with detail. We're trying to give you some tools so that, you know, if you do have these kinds of questions, there's somewhere for you to go and get your question answered. And that's why we have these long definition chapters. It's our hope to get these in your hands as soon as possible because we agree. You need that information to understand what's being said. There's a pretty good chance that you might find a term in your travels as you're looking at this document that isn't defined and that you'd like to find. And by all means, you know, that's information that we would like to hear, because if you've got a question, somebody else probably does too. And it'd be better for us to answer that.
Okay, thank you.
Yes, ma'am. Other questions on chapter 1? And by the way, this is not our last time to talk about this. Chapter 3 is our districts chapter. Okay, so what we've tried to do there is bring all of the information together about the zoning districts. Okay, so the zoning districts are the aspects or elements in your development regulations that identify where I can do different kinds of land uses, right? And how those lots in those districts need to be configured, how big they are, what the setbacks are, how much open space, that sort of thing. That's what's in the districts chapter. What we would like you to know about this chapter is that we're suggesting adding 4 new zoning districts: the conservation district, okay, things that have conservation easements on it, perhaps things that are owned by the town. A new, and we're still working on the names, for now we're calling it agricultural residential. The idea behind this agricultural residential is a district that has large lot, single family homes on it, some farms, some vacant land, some forestry, stuff that's 3 acres in size or larger. That's the intention, is to capture those kinds of things, of which there are many here in Mills River. And to recognize that that's a very rural kind of a development pattern. It's a development pattern that protects, you know, farming and farm related activity, and that should continue. But at the same time, if you want to build a house there, you should be able to, right? So we're working on the agricultural residential name. Think of this as your least dense, most rural district that still allows some kind of development. Okay, that's what AGR is. The MXR, the mixed residential district, is sort of a replacement. It joins your neighborhood commercial district with some of the provisions of your current mixed use district. Okay. It's a grab bag. It's intended to accommodate the most dense residential things that you could possibly have, right? And some non-residential stuff in close proximity so that I can walk to get sugar, right? And it basically replaces NC and mixed use, right? Lastly is the TNC district. That's a town center district. And we recognize that, you know, the comprehensive plan tells us we really want to have a central place where people say, this is the core of Mills River. This is, I'm in the middle of it. This is it. The zoning districts today don't really do that very well. So we're suggesting this town center district, this TNC district, as a place where there are retail uses in close proximity to residential uses, that I can park my car and that I can walk, that this would be where a restaurant might be or an entertainment venue or what have you. There's not a lot of this. There are 2 places that we've designated it, one around sort of the intersection of the highways and one sort of kind of where it's trying to live now, which is the Ingalls area. The thing that I want to stress to you guys is the draft zoning map that you saw is a draft, and we wanted to put it on the table so that we could start to get some feedback. That process has started, and there will be changes to the map. That's why we're having the conversation, because, you know, Karen and I and the people who are working with us, we can't sit in a vacuum and come up with this stuff. We have to, but at the same time, we have to put something on the table so people can respond to it. And that's what this is. We take this as a spirit of, this is a first draft. Are we going to get everything right? Probably not. And it's probably okay that we didn't get everything right, because it gives us some room for discussion. We're replacing 2 districts. The MRMU district, I talked last night, about 3/4 of the land in Mills River is MU. It has a 0.69 acre minimum lot size for residential. It has very few dimensional standards and it allows a lot of uses. And the changes in the state law that are coming are going to make it difficult for Mills River to ever move away from that, and do things that will allow you more control over development, will allow you to better protect community character, but do it in ways that still give people choices, that still have flexibility, that still allow people to realize the value of the property. And so that's an important part of this is what happens with the MRMU. I mentioned the MRNC, we're taking that and suggesting that go in the MXR. Now, you know, just like we're not married to any of these concepts on the zoning map, we're not married to this concept either. If the community feels like this doesn't fit us right, we're happy to, you know, talk about, well, what does, you know, what does feel right. Conditional zoning districts is something we're going to talk a lot more about in the coming days and weeks. One of the reasons for that is the state downzoning law. Going forward, you're not necessarily going to be able to as easily go back and address problems that come up after a decision is made. Okay, the law says you can't reduce densities, you can't lower the range of allowable uses, you can't create nonconformities unless you get consent, and the test for consent is almost unmeetable. Okay, so conventional zoning, when you've approved that zoning, the horse has left the barn, and it's going to be really hard for you to ever pull it back in. Conditional zoning gives you a little bit more control over that, a little bit more authority in terms of dealing with unanticipated outcomes. Okay, so I just want to tell you that the conditional zoning is something you have today, but you don't use it. It's never been used.
So the conditional zoning, is that just residential or is it just commercial or is it all of them?
Great question. We're suggesting 4
Okay.
different conditional districts, one for residential, one for commercial, one for mixed use, and one for industrial. And by the way, you have these already in your ordinance. This isn't necessarily a new concept. We hope to adjust the procedure to make it a little easier to use, a little more predictable, and a little more powerful for you guys to you know, get the development that people want here in the community.
And if, the way I understand, I've dealt with conditional zoning for quite a few years now, and is that as the planning board, as council, when someone comes to us to rezone a piece of property, we cannot look at a specific use. They may say, I want to build houses. They may say, I want to build a cat sweater factory or something like that. But once we rezone it, anything that's allowed in that zoning can go there. With conditional zoning, we set the conditions. We determine this is what's going here from here on out. And if they want to change it, then they have to come back to us. And that protects the town. That protects us as neighbors, that when someone makes a bunch of promises, we can hold them to those promises. So
Absolutely correct.
thanks for letting me butt in.
No, you're absolutely correct. And conditional zoning is the norm across the state. It's actually rare to find a community that's not using it. This is a step in the right direction for Mills River. Generally speaking, we wanted to add more clarity about the requirements. Okay. And we do that in a couple of ways. One is just simply the presentation of the information, right? We do these tables, and I realize that at first glance, that table looks a little overwhelming. There's a lot of information there, but the way that it's presented in the current ordinance, it's just lines of text, and it's very easy to miss. And there's no summary place where I can go find out what are all of the standards for this particular use in this district, right? Or how do I compare and contrast how these differential standards are applied to different kinds of uses that are allowed in this district. So we're trying to give the reader a little bit more information to make it a little bit easier for them to get to the basics of what are the dimensional requirements for the district. And you can decide, yep, I like these, I can work with these, or nope, these are difficult, I can't work with them, I need to try one of the other flexibility mechanisms that are built in the town, like conditional zoning. Okay. We do address slope, or we're attempting to address slope. We want to protect the, you know, sensitive areas in town. We want to protect the view sheds. We want to protect the farms. And part of doing that is dealing with slope. and making sure that, we're not allowing development that's coming in that's going to interfere with your view shed, that's going to send a bunch of water down into the valley. So we want to be, aware of that and integrate that layer into it. So there is a little bit more complexity here in terms of the dimensional standards, but it's hoped that that's done for a purpose. There's a method there. And we're here to talk about it and answer questions about it and change it if it needs to be changed, or dump it if it doesn't fit.
So Chad, how hard is it gonna be to develop the steep slope, what I'm gonna call overlay?
Right.
Is that gonna be a tough battle for the town and an expense to have it in place by the July 1st deadline? Or are we just gonna put some kind of site standard that my staff can go out and physically do on site and say, well, this slope is more than?
Right. Fantastic question. And we've talked a lot about that. There are some communities that have very complicated processes for determining slope. And in some cases, in those communities, folks who want to do a house have to go find an engineer and spend thousands of dollars to do a slope analysis before they can do that. What we would suggest instead is an average slope approach that says, what's the high point of the site? What's the low point of the site? What's the difference between the two? And let's divide that by the distance between them. That's the average slope. If that's over 25, then your lot needs to be bigger, but your setbacks can be more flexible. If it's under 25, then the basic rules apply. That's the concept. Something that's easy to understand, easy to apply, and you don't have to go spend a bunch of money up front to find out what's the development option. Now, we may decide for even more flexibility. There was a very good point made about our AGR district being quite large. Maybe we don't need a slope standard for lots that are larger than 3 acres. Good point. And that's something that we're thinking about. Maybe we have a slightly different slope standard for these lots of 3 acres or more. So that's, we're always looking for good ideas and ways to make this stuff easy. That's what we're trying to do. And I realize it can be a little counterintuitive that there's 200 pages. How could this possibly be easier? But, you've got flexibility and you've got predictability, right? The more flexible it is, the fewer the number of pages. The more predictable it is, the more pages you have. So we try to find a balance there. And we're not going to get it right on the first time. We got to work with you guys and figure out what's your appetite for this. And that's what we're doing.
Gotcha.
Okay. Chapter 4 is your land use chapter. So that's all of the information about principal uses, like your single family home or your business, a secondary use like your detached garage or, your outdoor storage for your business, whatever. There's information there about having
Chad, if I may, I'm so sorry to interrupt. We lost the internet just a second ago, and because of just the importance of the conversation, I
Okay.
just want to make sure we try to get the recording back up.
Okay.
absolutely.
Yes.
We'll take a 5-minute break or so.
Are we waiting for it to reboot? Okay. Just take a couple of minutes.
Okay, that's fine. We'll hang tight.
Let me know where you want to start again from.
If you can remember 45 seconds ago, and just start right on that word, that would be great, Chad.
Seamless as I can, right?
Start after.
Right, right.
I'm not. Yeah. It's all right.
Great. Well,
I'll try to keep it rolling.
okay.
You need to go.
Thank you. Sorry to everybody at home that we lost internet there. I'm going to go back just a little bit and talk a little bit more about the things that you need to know in the use table. Okay. The use table is a new feature that we're adding. It has all of the districts across the top and all of the uses down the side. What we've tried to do is make it much clearer and easier for people to use. A use is either permitted by right, it's permitted by special use, or you can propose a conditional zoning district and have that use in that area. We've broadened the array of allowable uses. Okay. There are uses today that we didn't have 10 years ago or 20 years ago when your ordinance was drafted, right? We didn't have event centers, right? We didn't have co-working space or business incubators. We didn't really have a whole lot of mixed use. Now we do. And in 10 years, goodness knows what we'll have.
Can we take a 5 minute?
Do we have the ability to, use our Starlink at this point for this, or is this, would take a while?
Yeah. So, if it pleases council, just 5 minutes, we can look
Sure.
at what alternatives we have.
Okay, we'll take a 5-minute recess here, try to get rebooted.
Thank you.